Hello and welcome back to the sixth and final part of this Marionette Makeover series. There was a little sneaky peek there of what Charlie's going to look like by the end. So today I am making a new set of controls for him. So it's an upright marionette control. It's made of wood and wire and enables you to control the marionette. I'm doing a short string marionette, so he is controlled from standing, so he'll be resting on the ground, and I'll hold the control at about waist height. It's quite a traditional style of marionette control here in England, where I'm based, and is used for both long and short string marionettes. And marionettes are essentially a string puppet. So you've just seen me cut out the upright and the crossbar for the controls, and now it just needs sanding to make it really nice and smooth, because this is the bit you're holding in your hand. So I've made a little notch joint so that they fit together really nicely, and rather than screw them together I'm going to put a wooden dowel peg through, so the whole thing is made of wood. So here I'm just testing out what it feels like, make sure I've got it the balance right, and it's usable in both left and right hands. And so I've glued it all together with a PVA wood glue, and when that dries, that's going to be nice and strong and hold it all securely. And this last piece I am putting in is a dowel for the shoulder, so supporting the shoulders of the puppet. This can also be a shaped piece, but the dowel is a really simple way of getting the shape that you need, so you just put it in an angle. Next up I'm using wire to make the controls for the arms. These are sort of put through the upright bar, and they have a pivot so that you can control the arms using your thumb and first finger on either hand, whichever hand you're using. So you can use it as a one-handed control, and then your second hand is used for things like the leg bar or the kind of back string. So here I'm using a piano wire. You can also use a strong coat hanger, like a wire coat hanger, and actually it's probably slightly better to use a strong coat hanger because you can solder it, whereas piano wire doesn't solder very nicely at all. So I've used, once I've curved it round, which is really hard to do in a piano wire because it's so hard, because it's like a sprung steel, I've used some araldite just to seal that loop, because the arm string is going through. I don't want that getting caught or getting tangled and coming out. So I've just used an araldite. I use the 5-minute one, 2-part epoxy glue, just to seal the loop on the end of the arm rods. So now I've been putting them through and I'm bending them, so that's making the pivot. So the final bit I'm doing is making a hook for the top of the control, so that I can hang Charlie when he's not in use. That just helps the strings not get tangled and makes it really easy just to pick up and use him. So I've made a curved hook and just put a hole through at an angle, and then once I've placed it through, I've just bent the end, and using both araldite and hammering, so it's like a pin almost. I've connected the hook onto the top of the controls. The last bit of the job to do before I start to attach the arm rods is just to make sure it's all sanded down. So I'm making all those little dowels that I've put through nice and flush and really smooth for in the hand. Now, because I'm using piano wire for those arm controls, I can't solder it, so I have dented the ends, and I'm using arrowdite and string just to make a little ball. So you just keep adding arrowdite and string to make a sort of a stopper to stop the pivoting arm rods going through that hole I've drilled through the upright control. And this, once it's dry, gives a really nice connection if you can't solder the material. And whilst that's all drying, I just want to share this lovely book with you. This is by John Roberts, who's a puppet maker based down in Devon, who runs Puppet Craft Theatre. And he has made this amazing book. He does lots of training and courses as well, but just has this amazing book on how to carve a marionette. And it's just literally a step-by-step guide all the way through. And I got it out when I was doing this because it's been a little while since I've strung a marionette. And was just like, oh, I can't remember how long or what type of cord I need for it. So I just went and it's just such a great resource, and then you can buy it from him. And maybe I'll put a little link in the description box below because it's just such a great puppet book. Highly recommend it. I was lucky enough to do some training with him really, really early on in my career. And the very first marionette I carved, not this one, but the very first one I did on that course, and learnt so much. So what I've been doing here is connecting all the little eyelets for tying the strings on and adding on the terry clip for the leg bar so that you can take that on and off. Now the next bit is to add on all the strings for the puppet. Here I'm using a waxed thread, usually used for like sewing leather and things. So I think it's a 0.8mm waxed thread. It's great because it doesn't tangle so much, and the wax really just helps that. So I'm just tying it on, and because strings break, they get tangled. I don't glue threads in a marionette because you do need to be able to redo them at some point. So to start with, I'm just tying it onto the little loops that are in the ears. So when I've carved the marionette, I've worked out the balance of the head for movement, and there are just some little eyelets, and on my marionette, they're just inside the ears. So I'm tying them on there first, and then I'm tying them onto the controls at like a set distance. And I've done that through measuring how tall the puppet is and how tall I am to get the rough distance. So I'm just tying them on, but using like an easy to undo bow at the top here so that I can just test and check it's the right height for me. The next thing is I'm hanging it up. Little change of view for you. So the next bit is to tie the shoulders onto that dowel bar that was coming out the back of the control. So there's a little hole drilled through the back, and it's a run through string just to support the shoulders. So once that's done, I then will secure those head ones so that I just keep it all in balance and can make sure I've got the weight supported on the shoulders so that I can move the head of the marionette. And here I am tying the bottom string, so it just supports the back of the puppet, so you can do things like bowing and getting down to the ground, and that goes to a little eyelet halfway along that bar. Next is the legs, and there's a knot tied in the end of the string, and I've made myself a little wire loop so that I can pass that through and use it almost like a needle, but really easy to thread through. The little tiny holes that are in each knee, and they go up quite loosely to the leg bar, and that's just a bit of trial and error how long you want that, but they do need to be loose so that they don't move when you don't want them to. But then you can take the leg bar off, this leg bar up here, you can take it off to operate the legs to make the puppet walk. And so yeah, just tying those on one leg to the end of each end of the leg bar. Now Charlie has one hand carved flat and one hand carved in a fist as if carrying something. So for this iteration of him, I've actually drilled through his hand and decided to give him a little staff. So when I am stringing his arms, rather than going through the hand, because that would classically be palm facing down towards the ground, I'm actually putting the string through the upright of the staff. I've added this little pine cone to the top to give it a more of a kind of a magical woodland feel, and then later, once I tested it, I decided it was a bit cumbersome, so I chopped it down to being a bit more of a wand. So here he is, hanging outside of my studio. Oh, hello there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my journey. And I was thinking, now that I've got a new look, maybe I need a new name. So if you can think of a new name for me, why not put it in the comments below? And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!